Hello, everybody, and welcome into the 71st edition of Texas Longhorns Live. As always, it's Matthew Miller with Gerald Goodrich. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps us out. Guys, we're going to jump into it. We're going to start to the keys to the rest of the season after the bye week. Obviously, the first bye of the Texas season kicks off, and then we're going to kick off SEC play, playing Florida. So, Gerald, I'll let you start this one out. Where do you think some of the keys to the season lie that they could have possibly found in the bye week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take the obvious one. Like, what does Arch Manning look like post-bye week, right? Texas goes into the bye week seemingly with Arch finding his groove, getting that slump buster against Sam Houston State. Now, again, Sam Houston State, not a good team, but Arch looked like what you want a elite quarterback to look like against a bad team. He had as many touchdowns as incompletions in that game, right? Just looked elite, made some throws that we knew he could make, but he hadn't been able to make thus far in the season, and really hit not just the deep ones, but those layups that we talked about quite a bit. So I think Arch Manning, if he can play, even he doesn't have to, I don't expect him to put up 300 yards, 5 total touchdowns against everybody. But if we get more of or closer to the confidence level of Arch, the level of comfort we saw from Arch against Sam Houston State in conference play, I think that will go a long way for Texas to really being successful.
No, I completely agree. I think it's very important to get him into rhythm. And also, guys, I know people keep bringing up, oh, it's just Sam Houston State. And I agree to some extent. But if he would have played that same way versus San Jose State and UTEP, then there'd be no concerns heading into this Florida game. So you have to give it some credence. I know the opponent was terrible. It's the worst opponent we're going to play the whole year. But still, it does matter because UTEP is not that much better. And it was dreadful to watch versus UTEP. Might have been one of the worst games we've had probably since Quinn Ewers versus Oklahoma State, where he threw like 44% completion percentage. So definitely important. I think on that same line of thinking, run Arch. I think that's pretty clear to me. That's how he gets in the rhythm. He likes doing it. Steve Sarkisian has known this. He's been hesitant to do it. We know that because during Steve Sarkisian's press conferences, he always gives that line, we do not major in the quarterback run game. Guess what? The last couple press conferences, when asked that, he has not said that line. So he knows that Arch Manning has to run the football to get into rhythm. He knows what he has there. This guy's a big guy, 6'4", 230 pounds, good athlete. It's going to take quite a shot for him to get hurt, especially with the sturdiness of the legs that he has. I don't see that happening unless something freak happens. So I think 6 to 12 times per game, you're going to have a quarterback designed run for Arch Manning.
Yeah, we saw some of that against Sam Houston State. I think Sark, for better or for worse, Sark has a system that he likes to run. And I think Sark finally, I don't know what changed in his mind or what broke through or, who's slapped him upside the head. I'm not sure what it is, but he seemingly has figured out okay, I need it because we saw quarterback power. We saw a couple of different design runs. We also saw Arch be able to make some of the right reads on the RPOs when things are available, right? So the RPOs, that quick game and getting Arch into space, I think are absolutely key because I always harp back on this. Look at Arch's body language after he scores a touchdown run. He's 6'4" and he looks like he's 7 feet tall walking off the field. He looks different. His swagger is different. The confidence is different. And when push comes to shove, we've talked about this before, Arch's mechanical issues that we've seen are all confidence things. Arch's mechanical issues are all things that we've seen him make these throws. It's something between the ears. So getting him in rhythm, getting him in motion is huge.
No, so 100%. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, my number 2 goes along with getting Arch going is really just the ground game in general, right? The Texas run game has left a lot to be desired. It has put a lot on Arch Manning, partially due to the injuries, right? We've seen Quatravian Wisner banged up. We've seen CJ Baxter banged up. Again, my tinfoil hat is that Trey Wisner probably, if it was conference play, he would have been playing, but because it was Sam Houston State, it was San Jose State. He didn't really need to play or put any miles on the tires. And I think Texas thinks they're going to have a long run with him. So I wonder if he would have played if it had been more crucial games. But, with Trey Wisner hopefully back, with CJ Baxter hopefully getting back healthy, Texas really needs to establish the run game. And just for the simple fact of the offense looks better when Texas is able to run. It's a lot easier. And especially on early downs, Texas has struggled in third and medium to third and long, which is another thing I'll talk about in just a moment. But Texas has really struggled on third and medium and third and long. So if you can get 3.5-ish yards on first and second down, that puts you in a 3rd and 3 rather than a 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6. So that is a huge thing to keeping the offense on rhythm and on pace.
No, 100%. I completely agree with it. Corey says, can we get the push up front? That's a good question. But also, when the holes are there with some of the younger guys, they are missing them. Like, there's holes on tape when you see with the Christian Clark, with the Jared Gibson, they just don't see him. Whereas Trey Wise and CJ Baxter do. Like, the first round of the game when he got hurt, those guys were getting 2 to 3 yards on that carry. CJ Baxter got 6 and then went out of the game with the hamstring injury. So, I don't think he plays in this game, but we really need Trey Wise to play. Again, Sark was pretty cryptic with his messaging at the press conference saying he's progressing. That tells me nothing. I don't know what that means. Also, the Wednesday injury report will be interesting. Is he questionable? Is he probable? What is he listed there? Again, those are still hard to see because these aren't NFL. Like, NFL teams could get fined for that if they lie. I have yet to see an SEC team get fined for that, so I don't know what's going to happen, but we need him in this game, especially with the weather report, being calling for rain, but just through that rest of the season as well. We need one of them to be supremely healthy. And then for me, don't run the offense under center. We've seen it. It does not work well under center. It has to be abandoned. We basically did abandon it in the Sam Houston game. It was out of like I said, I brought up the pistol. They did a little bit out of the pistol. They did most of it out of shotgun. Listen, he just can't process for whatever reason. The timing is not right when he is under center, especially play action under center. So I don't think that's part of Arch's game right now. And in a perfect world, it would, because guess what? He'd be the perfect guy for those play action rollouts, guys. I mean, he would be. That's what you look at him and you think you should be an A+ guy at doing that. He just can't do it right now with the processing. So maybe work on that and get it going for next season. Or again, if we play someone like, to me, there's one gimme game, in my opinion, left on the schedule. That's Kentucky. If you want to do that a little bit versus Kentucky, fine. Everyone else, you can't run that against. It will not be successful. Everyone else is capable of stopping that from what I've seen, what it produces on the schedule.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue with that, and part of it goes with what Corey says, and part of my next thing is like Texas. I guess it's this point and my previous point is like Texas really hasn't given you much to sweat about in the run game, right? Texas, both the offensive line and the running backs, really haven't given you a ton to sweat on the run game. So like play action is less effective when you don't have a legitimate running option. When your offensive line isn't pushing guys 3, 4, 5, 3-ish yards off the ball, right? When your running backs aren't making the right cuts, when your running backs aren't legitimate threats to get and eat up chunks of yardage, play action is ineffective. And so I think, like Corey, my next point was, what does the offensive line look like, and can they gel coming out of this bye week? My personal bias, and I've been saying it, I said it in the offseason and I let people talk me down from it, but I'm saying it now as well. Like my biggest curiosity about the offensive line was not skill, was not experience, it was cohesion, right? And a lot of what we're seeing from the Texas offensive line is really just like guys not knowing how to play together, guys not knowing how to play as a unit, guys not knowing, okay, this is how he's going to chip block, this is how we're going to combo block in a zone scheme, this is how we're going to, this is what their feet are going to be on when we're pulling, right? A lot of that is just comes to timing and repetition and time in the trenches. So how quickly can that offensive line unit gel to learn how they play together? Because that was the advantage of Texas's offensive line last year. Those dudes have been playing together for freaking ever. And so this is a new unit. And we've got some guys like Brandon Baker, DJ Campbell that have some mental mistakes. They've gotten a lot of those cleaned up, but ultimately, like, how well does this unit gel on the other side of the bye? That's going to tell a lot about Arch Manning's success of the running game. Like, the entire offense is going to run through and be limited or lifted by that offensive line.
No, 100%. And, Corey just said, I want to see the O-line play nasty, specifically with Oklahoma. And I agree with that, because I'm looking at the rest of the teams on our schedule. I think Oklahoma, that's funny, the best two fronts, in my opinion, are the teams we're going to play back-to-back. I think these are the best two fronts. Georgia's front's not that good this year, guys. Their defense in general is not that good. They do not scare me. The next two defenses we play, which are Florida and Georgia, in my opinion, are the two best defenses we will play in the regular season. So it's going to tell us a lot of how good this offense can be. Heck, if we can put up 21 to 24 points versus those teams, I'm feeling pretty good, because we can put up 21, 24 versus them. We can put up 30 plus on any of these other teams left on our schedule. I mean, Vanderbilt just gave up 35 to Utah State, and that's not a good football team. So these two games are going to be very important, and I completely agree with that. My next point is create turnovers. We saw what I believe was the most complete football game was versus San Jose State, and the emphasis was, Sark said in the press conference leading up to that, I want my guys to go in there with the intention of creating turnovers. And when we saw that, we saw, I believe, Ty Anthony Smith caused a fumble and Anthony Hill caused a fumble. These guys, when they get there and they have enough team speed, I want them to be punching and going for the football. One, obviously it's a good thing to create turnovers, but two, it helps the offense because you might set them up in helpful situations, helpful field position to where we can get some points on the board. And that's the type of team this team's going to be. This is going to be a team that's going to win by field position, by a really good punter, by good defense. Hopefully we can get the run game going. If we can do that, I feel very confident going forward with this team. So create more turnovers, help your offense, help your special teams, steal some possessions and steal some points away and put them on the board.
Yeah, and that's, I don't want to like steal too much from our Florida preview because that's some of the stuff I'm going to talk about there as well. But this hasn't been as catalytic of a defense as they have been in years past, especially like last year. Comparing it to last year probably is unfair because that was like unheard of levels of turnover production. But especially the interceptions, they haven't come yet. DJ Lagway is prone to throw some bad balls. Whatever quarterback we see against OU, it's probably going to be the backup. But even if John Mateer is in there, he has a penchant to overthrow some balls. So I think hopefully in the next couple of weeks, it seems like one of those times where if they start to create them, they're going to start to compete for them. They're going to start to, the blood gets in the water and the sharks start to swarm. And so I think once Texas is able to do that, we saw that with the fumbles, right, against San Jose State and Anthony Hill and the peanut punches, right? That when the water gets a little chummed like that, the sharks start to swarm. And so I definitely think that's an opportunity for Texas to get creative. My last one kind of goes with some of that. How good can the edges be, right? Texas's edges, let's be honest, have not been up to snuff this year. We haven't seen the level of production we've expected from them. And that's something that's going to need to change, especially as Texas gets into the chunk of the schedule with the more dynamic quarterbacks. Again, they're going to have DJ Lagway, who throws some interceptions, but the guy's still an athlete, right? Michael Hawkins at OU, he may not be the best, but he's got some wheels to him. Again, if Mateer is healthy enough to go, he'll probably go. If he's like 80%, I bet. That's another one of my conspiracy theories is that Mateer will probably play even if it's not fully healed. But like Mateer can go, right? You've got Diego Pavia. You've got the Marcel Reed, and you've got quarterbacks that they're going to need these edges to not just create havoc in the backfield, but play good, sound, fundamental, contain, like set the edge of the defense. Don't let them get outside you. Don't let them create big plays. Force the quarterback back inside to where there are bodies. That's where the defense will really be successful because the interior of the Texas defense, zero questions about it. If you force a guy back inside, they're getting mauled. So can the edges set the edge, keep contained, and really put a lid on a lot of these explosive kind of off-schedule plays that just drive defensive coordinators and fans insane?
No, 100%. My next one up is stop the penalties. Texas, before the bye week, was ranked second in penalties per game in the SEC, followed up by South Carolina. And South Carolina right now is probably the second worst team in the SEC. Now, that does say a lot about how deep the SEC is, but also, if you're going to be good, you can't have this many penalties per game in the SEC. It's not going to work, guys. We're going to lose games that way. What's going to happen if this continues to happen is we're going to have a game, if it's versus Mississippi State or Florida, to where we were the better team, but because of the penalties, we lose the game. That's what's going to happen. And then obviously versus the better teams, we're just going to flat out be the worst team because you have to win these football games on the margins. And penalties, one, are the easiest thing to correct because most of them are self-inflicted. Like a lot of these are false starts or snap infractions or stuff like that we just need to stop. Like, I don't understand the last couple of years why that seems to have taken off and, become a part of the problems that we had. It was mostly red zone, and then it's become that as well the last year and a half. So hopefully we can get that figured out. I really don't know how to fix it. It's kind of hard for me to tell you how I can fix false start penalties because Steve Sarkisian can't even figure that out. So that's something we got to fix.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I talked about third downs and I talked about staying ahead of the chains. Texas does itself no favors when it puts itself behind the chains, right? One of the biggest reasons why in recent years, Texas has struggled both in the red zone and on third downs is because of first and second down penalties or red zone penalties, right? We saw it when Texas finally scored a touchdown in the red zone earlier in the season. CJ Baxter kind of punched it in on a dive and it got called back on a holding, right? Thankfully, luckily, Arch was able to get that back. But that is the issue, right? Texas shoots itself in the foot in some of these situations and makes things harder on itself, right? This is not as good of a year, I think, top level in the SEC or even across the country as we've seen. And Texas, frankly, isn't as good as we thought they were going to be. So you cannot beat yourself, right? You cannot go into places and make things harder on yourself. You haven't shown that you're good enough to play undisciplined football and still win, because that was a big part of the issue against Ohio State. Penalties, getting behind the chains, and obviously Arch Manning struggles. But like, those are the things that, like, you can't, they're unforgivable. You let a team like Arkansas stay in the game with penalties last year. You let a team like Vanderbilt stay in the game last year due to unforced errors, right? Those are the kinds of things that will turn into losses if you aren't as good talent-wise as Texas was a year ago.
No, 100%. I completely agree. Corey says, I'm guessing he's talking about Sark going for it on fourth down. Do we like Sark punting or going for it on fourth downs? It depends on the situation in the field of the game. I'm fine with analytics, but I'm very much gut feeling and realizing the flow of the game that's unfolding right in front of you. A lot of coaches can't do that. I don't know why. But like, for example, this pisses me off. It always will when I watch coaches do this. Let's say you're up 1. You're on the opponent's 29-yard line. And if you kick a field goal 4th and 2, you've got 4 points, which forces them to go score a touchdown. I'm all for doing that. You are putting the threshold over from a 1-score, or from them kicking a field goal to beat you, to a touchdown. To my opinion, you should always take the points that allow that to happen. I don't understand why coaches don't do that. I saw it happen multiple times this week. The one that stands out to me was in the NFL with the Jaguars and Bengals, where Liam Cohen, the new coach, just said, no, I'm not doing that. And they ended up losing the game. And anytime that is the case, absolutely take the field goal. For example, I completely agree with this. If you're going from what would that be? A 4-point game to a 7-point game, or 4-point game to a 7-point game, and you want to go for it, fine. Because it does change the threshold of it, but you still have to score a touchdown either way for them to beat you or tie you. I'm fine with going for it. But anytime you can extend that to more than a field goal to a touchdown, I think you should take it. I also depends on, is it a low-scoring game? Is it a high-scoring game? There's so many different factors with that. I think actually Sark this year, I've been on board with most of them. Honestly, there's been one, the second one versus Ohio State, I disagreed with, but everyone else I've been fine with going for.
Yeah, I think again, I'm with you. I think some of it has to do with game feel, and that's the misnomer, I think, or misunderstanding about analytics. Like, analytics is not a decision maker in these cases. It's supposed to be another data point, right? Like, the analytics are just a data point that you use to understand the situation, right? In X number of situations, it's just math, right? X number of situations say that you increase your win probability by X number of points if you go for it here. Okay, that's one data point. Second data point, our defense has been right? You have to take all these things in. How well has our defense been playing? How well has the offense been playing? How well is the offensive line getting a push, right? Is it a 4th and 3 or is it a 4th and 6, right? Those are all things that have to go into the decision that you have to make. And again, vibes and momentum. Momentum is not a statistically accountable thing, but there's something to be said about, like, how is the team feeling? What are the vibes like? Are they able to get that? What will this do to them? And again, the analytics and stuff, again, I'm a big believer in analytics. You're going to hear me share some of that stuff as we do the Florida preview, but like, those are just data points in the decision-making process. And so, again, Sark has done a pretty good job of kind of balancing that, where he's like, I know what the book says, but also this is what I was feeling, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, this year I think he's been better at it. There are certain times in a couple years of the past that I've been like, I probably wouldn't have gone for it there. But I think so far he's been better, and he's basically said the same thing. Like, he takes it all into account. It's a gut feeling. I think with this team, I would tend to kick the field goals more often than not, because you have a defensive team. So take the points when you can get them. That's my opinion on it, if we're just going to go blanket statement on it. But I think it is a gut feeling most of the time.
How good is your kicker, right?
That too. David Keith Williams, penalties in the Ohio State game was a clear factor in Texas losing that game. However, decisions that Coach Sarkisian made in the red zone and on the goal line were determining factors in that game. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think hopefully he's realized we cannot battering ram teams to death in the red zone. Like, we've not been able to do that in his tenure. So hopefully he's realized that. Get a little bit more creative down there, some whip routes, something like that. Try anything at this point other than just running I formation to death or QB run to death. But I agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like 1,001 things that you could point to for Ohio State because Arch missed some balls that would have kept drives going. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that went into like Arch missing on a couple of mesh concepts also played a big role in it. So there's a lot of blame to go around in that one.
So let's move on to this. The AP poll came out, and I wanted to get your opinion on it, Gerald. Do you think, we'll start out with this, do you think Indiana or any of the teams in front of Texas, which ones would you move behind Texas?
It's hard for me to say because like Penn State at 7 feels weird because they haven't really beaten anybody, but neither is Texas, right? It's like so much of this is based on like preseason and perception. Like it's still too early. There haven't been enough good on good games for me to feel like anybody is that good. Like I've said it on multiple different platforms, said it on my podcast, said it on social media. Like this feels like a year where everybody is just okay. Like there's not a solid standout team. And so it's hard to, parse that because, I think maybe Texas Tech and Texas A&M are probably Texas Tech being lower than Texas at this point. Like this sucks for me to say this, feels a little weird based on this year's resume, right? Texas A&M being at 6 feels right. OU has won some big games, right? I don't know. It's hard for me to say because I don't know if anybody's good. Right? I just don't. There's no like standout like Terminator teams this year. So Indiana probably they have a bigger win I think than Texas, so that makes sense. But does Penn State? I don't know. Does OU? Yeah, I guess they have the Auburn win, right? Like those are Michigan maybe counts. Michigan probably won't be a top 25 win in 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't know. That's not good content, but just nobody is good this year. So I don't have a good answer for that.
No, there's no, like you said, Terminator team. There's no indestructible force here. I think there's about 10 to 15 teams that, I think there's going to be 20 teams fighting for 12 spots. I really think that. Yeah. I think you're going to get a log jam of 10-2, maybe even 9-3 football teams. The only 3 actually that I think you could take, some issue with are Ole Miss, Penn State, and Indiana. I'll start with Ole Miss and the reason why. Ole Miss is held up by LSU. At this point, LSU is held up by Clemson. Clemson is not a good football team, guys. They're like, if we're ranking every team in the country, they're probably in the 45 to 55 range, and they barely beat them. And that game was nasty to watch. I don't think either of those teams are that good, honestly. And Ole Miss has barely beaten Kentucky. They barely beat LSU. I really think they're being propped up highly for whatever reason. It's funny because they're in the same spot LSU was in, and I had the same feeling about LSU. I think they're being propped up. Now I think it's Ole Miss being propped up. So I think they're high. They want to be ahead of Texas, fine, but 4 is too high for me. I don't think they're the 4th best team in the country, and I think the end of the year will say that.
To your Clemson point, you say you have them in 40. So Chris Vanini of the Athletic / New York Times ranks all 136 teams. Yes, Clemson at 51.
Wow. Yeah, so, even worse than what I thought. And, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Ole Miss and LSU should be ranked at, like, 20 at this point. They've done absolutely nothing. They barely beat Florida when DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions. So I don't think they're that good of a football team. Indiana is one of those things where resume-wise, I would put them ahead of Texas. Now, this is the thing. Yep. Do you say resume or do you say who the better football team is? On a neutral field, I'm taking Texas. I think Texas wins that game like 24-16, 24-17. Like, Indiana's a good, solid football team. I think that'd be the type of game it would be. But Penn State don't understand it all. Don't understand. Ohio State, they have them ranked ahead of Oregon, and that was a closer football game throughout. Texas and Ohio State was a much closer football game than Oregon, Penn State throughout. So that one, it makes the least amount of sense to me. It does not make sense at all.
I'm with you on the Indiana thing, right? Because Indiana is propped up by that massive win against Illinois, who needed a last-second field goal to beat unranked USC, right? So like it goes back to, is anybody good this year? Like, even is Ohio State good this year? Is Oregon good? Like, I don't know. And maybe we just abolish the rankings and again, re-rank everybody every week, like based on the resume. There's 1,001 better ways to do this. But so much of this is just like preseason and perception.
No, 100% it is. Like, Iowa State, guys, hasn't looked that great, and this tells you everything you need to know. They're ranked 14th. They are underdogs this week to Cincinnati on the road. Like, that's it. So if they lose, that's not even an upset, and they're ranked 14th in the country. We saw Virginia beat Florida State. I actually do think they're like a top 30-ish team. I think they're pretty good. They're actually really good offensively. Defensively, they're not that good. That's good enough in the ACC. But we watched Georgia Tech, for God's sakes, almost lose to Wake Forest. And Wake Forest is, I mean, they're probably one of the 3 to 4 worst teams. I don't know. The ACC is so bad. They're in the bottom half of the ACC. I'm not going to say they're one of 3 or 4 worst, but I actually think out of this list, I think Vanderbilt's probably the most underrated football team on this list that I see.
I could see that. And I mean, they've got legitimate big wins, right? They've looked better. I think it almost feels like a reverse benefit of the doubt. Like Texas, Georgia, A&M, Penn State, they get that benefit of the doubt because of the brand, whereas like Vanderbilt, it's just Vandy, right? It's just Vandy. So nobody really gives them that level of credence. They don't give them that level of, I mean, again, look at like the Ole Miss thing and the Ole Miss LSU Clemson situation. Who else has beaten? Didn't Georgia Tech already beat Clemson this year? Right. Yeah. So like, why don't they get that bump that Ole Miss and LSU are getting? That's just, again, it's weird. So stinking weird.
Yeah, it's weird because Georgia Tech beat Clemson. Obviously, Ole Miss is getting the bump because LSU beat Clemson, and Ole Miss almost lost to Kentucky, and Georgia Tech almost lost to Wake Forest. I mean, they're pretty damn similar, but they're 13 spots apart. So, yeah, that's a really good point. And then Texas, will have, they'll have the chance to prove themselves. They're going to play Red River. Oklahoma's going to stay right there because they're not going to lose to Kent State. So they'll be somewhere between the 4 to 6 range. Texas, if they win, will be in the top 10. So that's going to be a top 10 matchup. Then a couple weeks later, they'll play Vanderbilt, which even if you lose to Alabama, as long as it's somewhat close, they're going to be a top 25 team still. So Texas still has plenty of time to move up these rankings and see what happens at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, again, rankings in week 5 don't really mean a whole lot. Just like beat the teams in front of you and everything shakes itself out.
No, 100%. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. That was our take on the AP poll and the rankings. Let's jump into your comments real quick before we go to the next topic. David Keith Williams, Clemson is a team that may be ranked in the 50s nationally, but ironically, they still have perhaps 4 players that could be first round NFL draft picks. Yeah, that's what's crazy. Like, Peter Woods and TJ Parker will probably be NFL first round draft picks. I don't know about 4 because I don't think Klubnik is ever going to get to that point.
Into it,
yeah, no. And even if he plays good throughout the year, I don't think he gets to that point from here on out. I think there's way too much bad tape on him. I'm trying to think who the other one would be. I think Avion Terrell. I mean, maybe. I don't see him as a first round pick personally, but maybe he gets there.
But to your point, David, like that's why I had Clemson as a national championship contender this year because of that exact thing. Like they had one of the best trenches on both sides of the ball, and they had a quarterback that I thought was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You give me good lines and good quarterback, so it's weird to me. Something is very off in South Carolina. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but there's just something about the makeup of that team, the personalities. I'm not sure what it is, but like they should be way better than they are, and they're just not good at all. It's pretty confusing.
Yeah, it is really weird. But I mean, the signs were there last year. Like that, people were right that said, hey, they had the same talent last year and they lost 4 games. Guess what? You were 100% right. Nothing changed. I thought it would change. Nothing changed. And I do think at some point, NFL scouts probably have to look themselves in the mirror and maybe, start questioning if those guys are truly that good. Because I'm questioning that. Like, if that team has that much talent, how are they this bad? And it's either those guys really aren't that good, and we'll see when they get to the NFL, or Dabo Swinney has truly lost his touch. I don't think that question is going to be answered up until probably about 2 years from now. We'll know in 2 years which was the case with that. But yeah, it's interesting. And it's funny because I talked to the Florida guys yesterday doing that preview about the Texas game, and I asked them if Dabo Swinney was fired, would you want him? And they flat out, both of them said, absolutely not. One of the worst hires you could make. And that's crazy to think about if you would have had something like 2 to 3 years ago.
It would almost feel like a worse version of Jimbo to A&M is what it would feel like. It would feel like a worse version of Jimbo to A&M hiring Dabo to coach Florida.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of Florida, let's jump into it. Texas heads to the Swamp to play the Florida Gators. First time in a very long time. It'll be the first time Steve Sarkisian has been in that stadium as a head coach. I believe there's only 2 people on staff who have been there. Texas is currently a 6.5-point favorite. This has fallen. It opened at 7.5. It's fallen down to 6.5, even though the money's on Texas, which scares the absolute hell out of me. But still, Texas is favored here. So Florida on the year 1-3. Obviously, key losses to LSU, Miami, South Florida. DJ Lagway is someone I had coming into the year. I thought he was the best quarterback in the SEC. I look dumb as hell for that take. 67.5% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and this blew my mind when I saw it. He is averaging 5.6 yards per attempt. Guys, good college quarterbacks average between about 7 to 8 yards per attempt. Elite ones average over 8.5 plus yards per attempt. This is bad, like dreadful to average 5.6 yards per attempt. And only have 5 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That's like Quinn Ewers, I believe, averaged like 5.7, 5.8 last year, but his touchdown interception ratio was good, so you could live with it. This is dreadful from DJ Lagway, and he's thrown multiple other balls that could have been intercepted. Like he could have 10 interceptions this year, and it would not shock you if you watch the tape. Wide receiver wise, it shocked me to see this as well. Vernell Bradley leading the team, 18 receptions, 219 yards, 0 touchdowns though. He's their leading receiver. Trey Wilson is their leading touchdowns receiver, but he only has 73 yards receiving. This offense has been completely neutered because DJ Lagway's ineffective, guys. He's just been an ineffective quarterback for Georgia. Obviously, Jaden Ball's really good. That's probably the best player on the offensive side of the ball. They have a pretty good offensive line as well. Not as quite as good as Florida fans thought they were going to get, but still pretty good. And then the defense, Tyreek Sapp, George Gums, Cormonic McClain, to me, are 3 of their probably 4 best players. Caleb Banks probably being their best players out for this game because he had foot surgery. So, Gerald, I kind of ran down the roster. What do you think about this Florida game overall?
Yeah, I think it's going to be I'm in the mood for a low-scoring game, I think, in this one, just based on both defenses being really good, right? I think Florida's offense is not good and Texas' defense is good. Texas's offense is questionable, is inconsistent, and Florida's defense is good, right? I think they're a top 20 team in opponent-adjusted defensive efficiency. I think they're like at it's like a point. Basically, again, they're number 16, in defensive, like opponent adjusted efficiency. So based on like that Long Island game doesn't count because it's 55-0. But based on the 3 games they have played, even giving up that many points to Miami, they still played pretty solid defense because a lot of that was DJ Lagway screwing them over. So like the defense is really good. Giving up just 2.9 points per opportunity. So when you pass, the 15, you get in the scoring range. They're giving up less than a field goal when people get into scoring range. So like it's a very stout defense. So Texas is really going to have to be on its P's and Q's offensively. They can't do the penalties. They can't do the self-inflicted wounds. They can't do the big loss plays. They can't have the miscommunications on offense because this Florida defense is good enough to punish them for that in a lot of ways. Now, can they play complementary football and can the offense, punish Texas when Texas's offense stumbles? I don't know, because as good as the defense is, the offense is one of the lowest. They're number 76 in opponent adjusted efficiency. They have a negative efficiency rating offensively. They're one of the least explosive offenses in the country. They're averaging less than 4 points per opportunity or when they get to scoring position. So again, not good for them. It's just not a good offense. And so I really feel like this is going to be a lower scoring defensive game. Now, if we get Arch playing up to the level that he's been playing in the past, I think or against Sam Houston State, like I think they could probably pop a couple and things look different. But my gut feelings like Pete Kwiatkowski is probably going to say, hey, we're going to take away the run. We're going to take away Jaden Ball and we're going to make DJ Lagway beat us. And that's probably a winning factor for Texas.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to me because when I was talking to the Florida guys yesterday, I said, Texas really just plays too high safety and makes you like beat them on the ground to come out of the shell. So I'm wondering if PK just straight out says, I don't think they can beat us. I'm just going to do one high and load the box. The weather, again, is going to be interesting because if this is pouring down rain, I actually think it helps out Florida because it muddied this game up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I hope that doesn't happen, but you have to deal with it, and hopefully our running backs come back healthy. And that's the thing too, like this Florida offense really doesn't do anything well. They don't run the ball well. Like you said, they don't know how to hit explosive plays. They turn the ball over a lot. They have explosive playmakers, but the problem is they don't have a quarterback that can execute the offense and get them the football down the field. Most of the plays that you see are these short passes that might go for some yardage, and that's from Vernell Brown, their freshman. Dallas Wilson is yet to play as a freshman, really high guy that Texas was going after. I believe he's like the 3rd or 4th best wide receiver coming out of high school last year. And then Trey Wilson has been a disappointment as well coming back because he could have went to the NFL and probably been like a 3rd or 4th round pick, and he probably hurt his stock, honestly, at this point by coming back and playing this offense. So really interesting to see. And let's jump into this real quick. Let's jump into the keys to the game for Texas here. So, what are the big keys to the game for Texas to win this game versus Florida? Gerald, I'll let you start here.
Yeah, I tipped my hand a little bit on my first one, but I think it's forcing DJ Lagway to be a passer, right? Like forcing DJ Lagway to win the game with his arm is a winning prospect for Texas. If Pete Kwiatkowski does what he likes to do, which is take away what a team does really well, then I anticipate the Texas defensive tackles in the interior of that defense to really play a big part in shutting down the run. And then it puts DJ Lagway in situations where he has to pass. And we've seen DJ Lagway. I mean, the last time we saw DJ Lagway on the field, he threw 5 interceptions. So like that to me, if you force him to pass, it's going to struggle. And you talked about how good their offensive line is, but against Miami, they were getting less than 3 line yards per rush. So the offensive line was creating less than 3 yards per rush. And Miami's got a good offensive line, but Texas's interior is really one of the elite units in the country. And so I really would be shocked if Pete Kwiatkowski doesn't lean into that and say, hey, we're going to make you pass the ball and we're going to make DJ Lagway pass into some weird windows and try to force some turnovers. Because that to me is what Pete Kwiatkowski likes to do. And I think it's going to play really well in Texas's favor.
No, I'm going to piggyback off that kind of and say score early. Because if you score early, get up 10, 14 points, one, you get the crowd out of the game, and a crowd that I think is going to start chanting fire Billy Napier if you start to score early, and it gets them out of their offense. Like that forces them to throw the football. It forces them into mistakes, which DJ Lagway is prone to. So I completely agree. Score early, get some momentum. Sark talked about that in his press conference of, hey, we have to do a good job of establishing our own momentum, our own energy in these football games. And Texas hasn't really been able to do that. I mean, 2 out of the last, 23, 24 opening drives we scored. That's it. That's not good, guys. We have to be better at that, especially in a game like this. If you can demoralize this Florida team. I really believe that. I think they're very close to quitting. Kind of like you saw Arkansas do versus Notre Dame. I 100% think that's what happened there. I think if you go up 14-0, a lot of those guys on that Florida sideline are going to check out of this football game. So to me, score early, get them out of the game, because I do not want this to be a fourth quarter game in enemy territory for fans that are begging for a close football game.
Yeah, I mean, this would make a season for Florida in some ways, and it would really bolster them a bit. I didn't say this. I meant to say this before. These numbers are nuts. So against Miami, Florida's success rate passing the ball was just 12%. They were able to get half of the yards they needed on a down on just 12% of their attempts. DJ Lagway's end of the game predicted points added as a player was -6 points. He was worth a negative touchdown in that game, right? Forcing DJ Lagway to win this game for Florida is a winning proposition for Texas. There's no 2 ways to say that.
Yeah, if you would have said that, a month and a half ago, people would have laughed at you for saying it. I mean, yeah, it's crazy how the expectations for all these top guys and how they performed this far. And he's probably been the worst out of all of them.
I was expecting this to be the year of the quarterback in the SEC, and it just hasn't been. Like with the guy, again, all of the names, right? DJ Lagway, you've got Arch Manning was supposed to be a guy. You've got Lenore Sellers, who's been good, not great, right? Like I just expected it to be a year of a quarterback across the country, right? Drew Aller at Penn State, Ohio State, Nebraska. It was supposed to be a quarterback heavy year, and it just hasn't materialized. Not sure why.
Am I still with you? Because I see my Wi-Fi flickering.
You're still here.
Okay. Be aggressive with the ball in the air. Again, DJ Lagway is going to throw it in a double, triple coverage. Or if you feel comfortable, go make a play on the football. Go jump a route. Be aggressive in this football game because the ball is there to be had. I think Sark's probably preaching something similar because he likes the aggressive nature when the defense plays with it. And I think there's going to be opportunities for this defense to make plays in this game. Do not be tentative. Do not hesitate. Just go and make a football play. They are going to be there, guys. Just you got to catch them when they're there. Again, if it's raining, especially, figure out how to way to catch the ball. It's already hard enough for some of these guys on defense. That's why they play defense. So be aggressive with the ball in the air when DJ Lagway does throw the football.
Yeah, I think on top of that, like what if they throw the ball, because again, weather conditions might be weird, but also like get aggressive trying to knock the ball out. We've seen Texas have a lot of success with that. Anthony Hill showed he has one of the best peanut punches in the country. So like on top of being aggressive with the balls in the air, don't be afraid to try to pop the ball out of somebody's hands when they're running, because if it's wet, that's going to be a winning factor for Texas. On that same note, I think Texas really needs to play complementary football, right? We've talked a lot about Arch needing to get confidence and the offense needing to find a rhythm. And the best way to do that is capitalize on short fields, right? Capitalize when you get the ball with 40 yards to go instead of 65. Capitalize when you've got the opportunity to take those extra possessions, because we've said it before, DJ Lagway is going to put the ball in peril if they pass the ball. So you're going to have opportunities to create turnovers. And when you do, Texas has not been great in recent years playing complementary football. So if Texas can get out there and take advantage of these extra possessions, it's going to snowball really quickly, because DJ Lagway throws an interception, you score, DJ Lagway is going to have to throw the ball more. It's a quicksand situation if Texas can play good complementary football, and this thing could get out of hand really fast.
No, I completely agree. And this is, on the same vein again, make Florida one-dimensional. Again, this is all about forcing DJ Lagway to throw as many times as humanly possible. Make him throw 40 times. Make him throw, if possible, 50 times. Like, literally, I do not want Jaden Ball to go 20 carries for 100 yards. That, to me, is a game plan for Florida that works. That's a game plan that drags us into deep water. That's not a game plan I want to be a part of. I want you to stop the run. And Texas has been great at that. We allow 2.1 yards per carry. I believe that's like the 7th best in the country. If that's what it ends up at, guys, that's going to be number 1 in the country. If you look back at the history of college football the last couple of years, somewhere between 2 to 2.3, 2.4 yards per carry is usually number 1 allowed. So right there, you're going to be number 1 if you keep doing that. So really good job by Texas so far. Keep it going. Again, I just want them to be suffocating. If they can just get this game over early, I truly believe Florida will quit. So that's my last key to the game. Just make Florida one-dimensional.
Yeah, and that goes really well with my last key to the game as well, is, put Florida in third down situations, third and long situations. This is the Texas defense has been good on third downs, and the Florida offense has been on the better side of average on third downs. But again, putting him in third and medium and third and long means that DJ Lagway is going to have the ball in his hands throwing it. So that creates opportunities for you to create these explosive and havoc plays. So that, to me, huge need for Texas.
No, 100%. Let's give our predictions for this game. So Florida, like I said, getting 6.5 points. The over-under here is 42.5. I'm going to go 23-13 Texas. So relatively low scoring. That would put me at the under, but I'm going to take Texas to cover here. I think Texas is just the better football team. I think it's going to be, I give them 13, and I would be kind of disappointed, honestly, if Florida got to that number. But I just have a feeling we might make a mistake that might help them out and score some points for them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've got Texas at 20. I've got Texas at 24-14 in this one. So I think Texas does cover, but I think, again, there's so much talent. There's so much, and it's going to be a weird game with the weather. There's going to be something uncontrollable. I hate rain games. They look sloppy. They look annoying, and weird things happen. But I do think Texas is probably 10 points better than Florida in this one.
Again, guys, that has been the keys to the game. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps us out. Now, last up, we've been doing this. We didn't do it last week because you weren't here, and I kind of forgot to do it by myself. But we're going to do the best games of the week, so I'll pull that up and do it. But so far, I am 5-1 out of the 6 games. Gerald, you are 2-4, so you got to catch up this week. That's your goal.
That's why I don't bet. I'm terrible.
I think last week might have helped you, because I would have picked Penn State. I would have been wrong about that. I would have been right about Alabama. I did think Alabama would beat Georgia, but I'm trying to think what other games last week. I would have picked USC. I would have been wrong about that. So you might have caught up last week if we did it. Man, there's not that many good games this week, guys, honestly. Let's see here. You know what? Why not? Let's do Ohio State and Minnesota. Minnesota is getting 23.5 points here at Ohio State, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. The over-under here is 44.5. So they basically expect Minnesota to score like 10 points in this game. Gerald, do you take Ohio State here, or do you take Minnesota? You get in 23.5 points.
That's 24 points is so stinking many, but is Minnesota any good? That's really the question. I think I'm going to take Minnesota. I think it's just 24 is so many points. 24 is just a lot. That's 3 touchdowns and a field goal. That's so many points. I'm going to regret this, but I think Minnesota.
I really want to take Minnesota badly, but if this was 24.5, I would take Minnesota. I think this game could easily be 48-24. I could easily see that. So I'm going to take Ohio State here. I don't love it. I hate taking more than 14 points in a bet. Like 23 and a half points is a lot. Like Ohio State could play a B- game and win the game by 21, but I'll take Ohio State here. Next up, let's do Miami, Florida, and Florida State. Miami, Florida is only favored by 4.5 points here. It is on the road, so it is at Doak Walker for Florida State. It is a home game. They're getting 4.5 points, though, after the loss to Virginia. What do you think about this game?
I hate it. I would stay away from it. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Again, but I have to do it because it's content, right? I think Florida State is probably better than we saw. I really like what they've got going offensively. So I think I take the Noles in this one.
Okay. I'm going to take Miami. I just think they're a way better football team on the line of scrimmage. I like Florida State offensively and what they do, like with Thomas Castellanos, and I think he's perfect for the Gus Malzahn offense. But I don't think their defensive line or offensive lines are very good. Whereas Miami, Florida might have the best combination of offensive and defensive line in the country, which is they haven't been able to say that in a very long time. But I think Ruben Bain's the best defensive lineman in the country up until this point. And I forget the last name of the guy, but Jordan, I think it's Malaga, the right tackle, is probably the best tackle in the country. So I'm going to go Miami, Florida here. I'll take the 4.5 points. I think they win by more. I think this game's super interesting here. Mississippi State and Texas A&M. Mississippi State's 100% for real. I think that proved that when they went down to the wire versus Tennessee, should have beat them. They should be 5-0 at this point, probably be like a top 20 team in the country, which I had them at 6 wins. I didn't expect them to be at that point if they would have won that game to be 5-0. So I'm going to take Mississippi State here. I think they're going to cover it versus Texas A&M. I don't think Texas A&M's defense is very good. Their offense is good, but I think Mississippi State's going to contain them enough. And I think Blake Shapen and their wide receivers, Brennan Thompson, will be able to expose that secondary a little bit. So I'm going to take Mississippi State the 14 points there.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think Mississippi State can put up a lot of points. I think this is going to be almost the opposite of what early A&M and Notre Dame was, where I think you're going to see a lot of offense in this one. I think the differentiator for me is I think A&M's defensive line is probably going to have some success against Mississippi State's offensive line, but ultimately I do think that if Shapen is fully healthy and if they can get Brennan Thompson going deep, I think they've got a chance in this one. So I think I'll go with you on that one and say Mississippi State.
Okay, guys, again, hit that like button, subscribe down below. We really appreciate it. This has been the 71st edition of Texas Longhorns Live. Again, you can give each of us a follow on our X accounts. This is Gerald's right there. Please give him a follow on there, as well as his Blue Sky, as well as his Longhorn Pod, which you can catch on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, wherever you can find your podcast. This is mine right there as well. That's my X account. Please give me a follow. We really appreciate you guys joining us. This has been the 71st edition. And as always, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.